Who are you?
What do you want?
Why did I ask that?
How did you even find me?
Where are we?
Do you not know?
What's the issue?
Have you ever been somewhere so magical that you just cry the whole time?
What do you define as magical?
How do you not know what magic is?
When was magic invented?
Have you not been to a magician's house before?
No. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Miss Shannon Maguire, and that was the fun game questions only. Because there's a reason behind that. We're not just crazy. She is one of the founders, right?
Not a
Not a
founder.
founder, but a part of the Lancaster Improv Players. Great improv comedy. I got to see a couple shows back in 2019, I believe it was, up at the Hershey Vineyard and also over at Tellus 360. That was a really good show. It was actually a really funny one, the Speakeasy. But I asked Shannon to come on today. We have known each other for about 2.5 years,
Yeah.
maybe three almost.
I started at the dealership January 2019.
2019. So yeah, so almost about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I used to be Shannon's boss. How was that?
No comment. Wait, you can't fire me now.
What was when you did the improv show up in Hershey and what was that thing? The genie, ask the genie thingy.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, it's like a three-headed genie, and we get a name for the genie.
yeah,
So like comes alive and like can share its powers, and like audience members can ask questions, and then each person in the genie answers one word at a time
yes.
to make up the answer, and then the host like only has the magical powers to like translate what the genie said.
And they asked the audience questions, so I rose my hand and I asked, "How do I get my staff to listen to me better?" And the answer was, "Pay Shannon more money." Oh, good times. Anyway, so hi Shannon.
Hi, Mike.
How are things?
Not bad.
As in?
Good, I guess. Good is the opposite of bad.
This is gonna be a fun one.
uh,
Anyway,
It's been hot out. It's
it has
like
been hot out.
that episode of It's Always Sunny when Mac and Dennis move into the suburbs and the neighbor's like, it's a hot one today.
Oh man. So, I want to talk to you about a couple things. But Shannon's got an actually pretty cool life, pretty cool story. Just kind of where you came from, where you've been. But one of her interests and something that she went to school for, I believe, was political. What would you call that? Science,
Yeah.
political science, and things like that. And you actually got to work on a local campaign for the Jess King campaign. So, not to bring up any politics in this, but what is it like to work on a campaign that people don't see from the outside?
I feel like you're gonna get a very different answer from me versus anybody who worked on any other campaign, because I feel like we had a very different culture. Like we were very conscious about not overworking ourselves.
Hmm.
But it was really nice to go into an office
Yeah.
every day, and everybody was excited to be there, happy to be there. They wanted to work. They were passionate about the work.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really hard to find in a job.
Who was so what was the campaign running for actually?
U.S. Congress.
US Congress, that's right. And it was Jess King who was part of the Democratic Party,
Yes.
I believe. So what would you guys do on a daily basis for Jess? What did you see? What was happening around the office?
Yeah. So I was a field organizer. So I worked with colleges, high schools, retirement communities, and I had a few like regional areas that I
Mm.
worked with. So I worked with a wide range of people, just to organize people, encourage like high school and college students to like run their own events and
Mm.
be like a support there, to get the word out about Jess. I would meet with my regional teams monthly, I believe. It's been a few years since I did the campaign work. And we would just go over like campaign updates. Usually there was like some sort of like leadership within each regional area. So I'd have like a couple of contact points, and if people wanted to host canvases, I usually go to the first one that they hosted at their house just to help them get it going and running. And then after the first one, they could usually do it again. I started off by just volunteering, and Monday through Friday, I was the person calling
everyone.
Yes,
For
that was
votes and
me.
money.
Not for money, not
Okay.
for money. For votes, if people were on the fence, I would try to persuade them, and then a couple of days a week, I would also call and try to get people to volunteer their time. And usually, when they said no, then I tried to get them to volunteer their money to support our volunteers, which sometimes worked.
Was this paid?
When I first started, I was just like a volunteer/intern, so that part wasn't paid. But the last half of my time on the campaign is when I became a field organizer, and then I was paid. I was paid staff on the campaign. We would have morning meetings every day at, I think it was 10 a.m., so it was a nice start to the day. Like, I didn't have to wake up super early because I was going to work all day anyways.
Yeah.
So, I could get up, get ready, walk to the office, or ride a bike to the office, and then we would have our morning meetings, and we would do daily check-ins, and it was just a very supportive work environment.
Okay.
That's something, again, you find often.
So when you're calling these people for votes,
Mm-hmm.
because I know a lot of times, it's almost like telemarketing job when you're trying to get through to people, but I think it is so important, especially at a local level. I support always voting. If you're not going to vote nationally, at least vote locally, because it's going to affect the picture of the national scheme of things later on in life. So what are like some of the things that you would say to people to like really make a sense of urgency that this is important?
I'd usually find what they were passionate about. Like if you were like if I called you and you were like, yeah, like, I'm really sick, I'm struggling with my bills, like that would be like a great way for me to like segue into like, oh, here's like Jess's stance on healthcare, like this is how it could help you, and just to like, find that common ground and common values. Especially because we spent a lot of time calling Republicans and independents, so it wasn't even just like calling Democrats. Like I'm calling people who hear the word Democrat and don't want to vote, same as Republicans if they were calling Democrats. Like, you just have people that are like, nope, I've voted this way my whole life, this is how I'm voting, and they don't want to talk to you. So just trying to find that common ground, and like shared values, because there's always shared values whether or not we want to see it. What was your question again?
I don't remember.
Oh no.
Something about the campaign.
And calls.
Calling. Oh well, like so. When you were calling those people, like, what was it? What would you use to kind of get the sense of urgency for people to go out and vote? Yeah.
We also did a lot of storytelling. So like if people didn't really like give me like what they cared about, like I could talk about like why I was supporting Jess.
Was it like cold calling in the car industry?
Better than that. Because it dialed for you.
We didn't have the dial button yet.
Yeah.
So so as you're going through this campaign, obviously it's 2 years you're trying to get people, right? How long did you work on the campaign for?
With my volunteering and my paid staff time, a total of 6 months.
So okay, 6 months. Okay, but they start don't they start for funding and everything like years prior or?
So U.S. Congress is a 2-year term.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like 6 months into the term is like when it really starts, because you have like your primaries and stuff.
Yeah.
And you want to start fundraising because Jess was running against somebody in the primaries, but she dropped out after the districts were redrawn.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Lancaster, like the district, was like one of the few that became more Republican.
Okay.
After the redrawing, it was like 14 points Republican. So I know her opponent probably saw that and was like, nope.
Not happening.
Like we knew it was an uphill battle.
Yeah.
Like,
what's it like getting closer to the end there, like when those results are coming in? I mean, because you guys put so much effort into this stuff, and obviously you're passionate about, what you believe in. Like, is it a sense of like defeat, sadness, or is it just like, okay, we'll come back, next time? And
I was definitely sad, like night of. I think we met like a day or two later. Like I think we gave everybody a day off to like rest because those last few weeks, like you are working more.
Yeah.
But we like met and like talked and had a meeting where we like dissected like the campaign and the election results and talked about everything.
Yeah.
But we definitely like built a community. Like I'm still friends with so many people, and I know so many people are still involved in politics that weren't involved prior to the campaign.
Yeah.
So even though Jess didn't win, difference was made.
Difference was made with the people in the community. I think that's something that like everyone can learn just in general. Like community is so important. Like it's just such a big impact to be able to not even share, like even if you had disagreements with like political views or religion or whatever it is that you're in your life, like when people come together like just that. I think you saw a lot of that coming out of last year too with a lot of the protests, the movements and everything that was happening, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, we would pack a room of volunteers. Like we had so many interns, and it just a lot of people came together. I feel like especially once I like started, like that's when it really took off.
Yeah.
Because you had all these summer interns. Some people stayed through the fall.
Okay.
We got some more fall interns, and just the amount of people that stuck together. I mean, there were some kids who left for college in the fall.
Yeah.
And they'd come back on their breaks or some weekends, and then they'd spend their time like in the office, like making calls or canvassing and knocking on doors.
That's so awesome. So what made you get into politics and political science?
I grew up in a very political household. So it's something I always liked. I always thought in high school I would go for political science. When I went to college, I was like, nope, I'm going to be a business administration major. Like, that's the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
But I really hated my classes. And I always liked politics. I was taking, we had to take like a first year seminar, and mine was law, justice, and society. And I really liked the political aspect of that. So I took some political science classes and then ended up switching my major. It's just always something I've liked. I mean, I thought about switching my major to social work at some point during that time too, my junior year. And then I was like, I don't think I'm going to graduate on time if I do that.
I know a good social worker. I can hook you up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was like, I'm not going to graduate on time, and I'm going to lose like my scholarship because I didn't graduate on time.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have more debt than I'll make in my entire life as a social worker because they're severely underpaid. Yeah, so right around the end of college, my friend's mom was cutting my hair, and she just told me about Jess King. And I went to the website, clicked volunteer, found the internship, applied. Yep.
Nice. You're running for office?
No. No, thank you.
Saw everything that goes into it. I'm like, no, I don't want to.
Yes.
That's so cool. So what do you, when you get into politics, like what are some things that you should know? Like, obviously we don't have to talk about your political party, but like when people are like getting to volunteer for things, like what are some things that you went through to be like, this is the party that I want to know? Like, what are you basing, your values on? Like, are you basing your values on these things? Are you basing just like what's important to you at that moment?
Definitely my values, I'd say. Like, and just like my life experiences, but the life experiences of people around me. I feel like my politics changed a lot from like high school through college.
Okay.
And I think I was just very in my own reality.
Yeah.
And not really hearing what other people were going through. And once I started like listening to other people and hearing their stories, I feel like things really started to change.
What's like some of the stories that stuck out to you?
Just like hearing things about like dreamers and like my dad got sick shortly after I started college, and that just really changed my perspective a lot on like healthcare and stuff, because there were things that my mom wouldn't have been able to do without certain programs, and there's no reason why she should only, or my family only qualified that because of a zip code. Yeah. It's something that I think everybody should have access to, and because I don't think my dad would have lived nearly as long as he did if we didn't have that. My mom really would have struggled with trying to work and balance care for my dad. So just things like that where, you can't ignore that. Like, I think everything, not everything, but I think a lot of things, like, emotion deserves a place in politics. Like, I don't think it should be emotionless. Yeah. If you're not passionate about it, then why does it matter?
Yeah. What if everyone just sat back during the Revolutionary War, just like, nah, you know what, you guys can take care of it.
I don't really feel like it.
I don't want to get on this horse. I think that's something, though, that needs to be talked about, though, more is, I mean, like, we talk about healthcare. It seems to be brought up in, like, every time there's an election or anything, but I always feel like it's always on the back burner. And healthcare was always something to me that was. Look, I'm glad that we live in the country that we live in, that we're able to, have these, these freedoms that we have. But to see other countries having better healthcare than us, to see other countries thriving in healthcare, and especially mental health, and mental health's a big thing to me. I mean, you know that, some of the stories of the things that I've struggled with mental health. We have a bunch of mutual friends and people that we know that struggle with mental health, and just because it's not a conservative versus a liberal mindset. This should just be, hey, where are we at for people right now?
Yeah,
With
what can
healthcare.
we do more to
Yeah.
help people
To help
instead of
people. Yeah.
yeah, I think like a big thing. I not to get too political.
No,
You
no,
can
no.
cut
Go,
me off,
no. Go ahead.
but like I think we put like profits over people. Like when you have a system that's based on profits, it's never gonna be about helping people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest issue is the system is designed to help people, but we're not using it like that
Properly.
Yeah, and there's just better ways to do things. Like
Yeah.
it might not be broken in some people's eyes, but it can still be better.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you strive for better?
Well, why wouldn't we be able to offer some of these things that, I mean, just to bring up one of those, insulin, and someone brought this up to me recently that they don't have insurance and their insulin is like 400% cheaper not having insurance than it would be having insurance. And I'm like, how is that possible? Like, how does that make sense? So people are signing up for all these programs, giving money to these big corporations that are literally just screwing them over. Like, how is that incentivized? I didn't have insurance for 3 years at one point, and getting sick. If I would have had insurance, I would have had to pay so much more money for the antibiotics that I needed, rather than going up and saying, "Hey, I don't have insurance." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Here's a coupon, and now your medication is half of what you're supposed to pay for it."
Yeah, I just there's like you read stories about people like Americans getting sick in these like in like European countries and stuff, and they go and get care, and it's just like they don't have to pay anything. They don't have to like get a referral to a specialist. And it's just
in Shannon's opinion, what do you think would help improve it?
I definitely think deprivatizing it. Like I just don't think it should be a business because again, you're putting profits over people.
Yeah.
Like Jess King, one of her big things was Medicare for all, and like I know people like get scared of like big government and stuff.
Yeah.
But you have other social programs.
Yeah.
That are working better than when we didn't have them.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously what we're doing now isn't working.
Yeah.
I mean, we could at least give it a shot. It works well in other countries.
At least try,
Yeah.
Here and there. I don't know why people are so scared of. Okay, for me, and this is just my opinion. I'm all about local government. And I think that the United States has done a good job in over the 200 years of existence that it has been that we have big government trickling down to local government, but that for the most part, local governments are the ones, dictating, mandating things. But, to say when it comes to something for healthcare, nationwide, why don't we have this universal thing of like, we're here to care for Americans. At the end of the day, we're all Americans, so why can't we implement that or see that,
No, I totally agree with you because, like, even just, like, I don't know. I've never had, like, a medical emergency, thank God. Like, knock on some wood.
Yeah.
But
this isn't real wood, but go
ahead. Knock on those crates. Like, I know, like, people have, like, had, like, Blue Cross Massachusetts or whatever, and they struggled to, like, get the care that they need in another state, and I can't imagine like the stress of dealing with that. And on top of it, you have doctors that don't want to listen to people. Like I can't tell you how many people I know right now are telling their doctors like, I'm not feeling okay, something's wrong, and they're like, oh no, it's just this, and they just throw more medication at them instead of running tests. And it's almost like people have to like demand for tests, and like if they're still being denied tests, like tell the doctor like, okay, like I want you to write down on my file that I asked for this test to be done.
Yeah.
And you told me no.
Yeah.
Because, it gives at least the family a chance to like do something if something were to happen to
To
that
happen to
family.
them. Yeah. It happened to me. I was having some medical issues a year and a half ago, and I went to my doctor, and I was telling him what was going on, and his answer to me was, in my younger days, I would have, took blood and ran all these tests on you and everything, but now, I'm just kind of like, no, I think it's just because you're getting older. I was like, I'm 29 years old. I don't think I should be feeling this way.
No.
And then ended up, getting some tests done and everything, but it was like, and I ended up being okay, but there's still things that like affect that. But for a doctor to tell you that, it's just like, what? What are you talking about? Like, isn't that what I'm paying you for, to find out if there's anything wrong with me? And even if there isn't, like, okay, awesome, like, praise God. But at the same time, like, what if there is something wrong with me? How does my family react to that if I end up dying a couple months down the road because you neglected to not test me for anything?
Yeah, and you have that experience, and like women,
Mm.
like all the time, like, oh no, you're just hysterical, like you're overreacting,
Mm.
like it's really not that bad,
Mm.
like you just have a low pain tolerance,
Mm.
and then you take like minorities on top of that, like just reading like how like COVID has affected Black communities, and like the more like there was a study done where it was like Black women who had Black doctors had higher like infant survival rates, like
Yeah.
and it's just because they're listening to them. And like you look at like the treatment of Black people, other minorities in our healthcare system throughout history, and
Yeah.
like the oh my gosh, the Tuskegee
Oh my gosh.
experiments, things like that. And it's not like we just were like, okay, we're done, like all of that's taken care of,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we're good. We're treating everybody fairly now.
Yeah.
Like it's not like that.
Everyone's equal now. It's
And like I feel like we're the only country where you have to be like, no, I'm not feeling well. Run blood work.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
take my blood, please.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, well, we had a guy at the dealership that ended up passing away from cancer, and he was an amazing guy. And they had done blood work for him earlier months before that, and they didn't catch the cancer in the blood work because they didn't do the full like protocols that they were supposed to do. Like, this could have saved somebody's life if they did the full protocols they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to sit here and just bash our healthcare. I'm not trying to sit here and just say like what's the worst thing ever. It needs improvement, and I think that people can see that.
agreed.
So how do we move forward with that though? Like, is it votes? Is it something that we are missing? Like, what?
Hopefully vote for the people who are serious about wanting to make changes, because
Yeah.
uh, I voted for Joe Biden. Not that I liked him, and he gets in office and is like, JK, I'm not gonna like do anything about student loans and stuff. And it's just like, you can't believe anybody, like,
Yeah.
because they just say things to get votes,
Yeah.
and then they end up in office. But that's the thing about Jess. Like, I didn't think she was just saying things for votes. Like, it felt like she actually cared and she wanted to make a difference for her community.
Yeah.
And she held so many town hall meetings where like people could come out and ask her questions. Like, she was out in the community.
Yeah.
And then you have like the Where's Lloyd signs. Like, he's not having actual public town halls. But he had like the tele-town halls where it was like a phone call, but like they like pre-read the questions, and it was only like select people to listen in. And it's like, that's not a town hall if you're cherry picking what you're going to answer and you're getting the questions ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like, Jess would go out, and like I remember there was one at a retirement home where like this guy was just digging in and asking her questions, and she stood there and was like, well, this is what I believe. And it just turned out like they had different values on
the certain topic.
Yeah, but like she was still
But see,
out in
like,
the community.
That's the thing with politics, and I think where it has come in like the past 10 years is that like we have just pitted each other against each other, and it's like, no, we're still all one in this. Like, and let's act like it. Like, yes, our views may differ. Our views differ on a lot of things. Here we are having a civil conversation, and you and I have always had different views on things. Have we ever once got into a screaming match or any type of I mean, it's only when you weren't listening to me at work.
I always listen to you.
You were
I,
actually
I
one of
was
the
a
only
good
ones.
employee.
You were actually the only one that listened to me.
I would paint on the cars for you. Not what you wanted, but I painted on them.
I have really bad handwriting, and every time that we had to write new prices on all the vehicles, I'd be like, Shannon, I need you to write something for me really quick. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about some cool stuff happening with Lancaster Improv Players. Give me and the people listening a little bit of history on it, what it is, and how this whole crazy thing started in Lancaster.
So, like I said at the beginning, like, I'm not a founder.
Mm.
I don't remember, like, the full story of how Lancaster Improv Players, I'll probably call it LIP. Just gonna throw that out there. If you hear me say LIP, it's Lancaster Improv Players.
Yeah.
But I auditioned shortly after I graduated college because I had done improv in college. And so I joined May of 2018, I believe, May or June. And then in 2019, the founders were like, hey, we want to start an improv theater. And we talked about it, and like they had found a space. And so we started doing it, and we had like serious conversations about what we needed to do, like things we needed to start taking more seriously, like showing up to practices and like actually practicing, and working to become better performers, because we can't open up a theater and like not put on good shows.
Yeah.
Otherwise the theater isn't going to stand very long. And we were also growing very quickly, so we formed individual teams, and then they have a night each month to perform. So we had our grand opening of the theater in August of 2019, and for some reason we didn't stay open for a year. There was like a panini or something that happened. No, COVID happened.
It was a panini.
A global panini.
Now, this is in Lancaster City,
yes.
where you guys open, and isn't it right near the Fulton Theater?
Yeah, so we were at 10 South Prince Street, where those apartments are. I don't know if you read anything about how, like, 9 businesses were recently kicked out because,
Yeah.
So we were, like, one of, like, the first that they were, like, trying to kick out. They were originally going to move us, like, a month after we, like, set up the space and had our grand opening.
Yeah.
And then they were like, just kidding, like, we're going to turn it all into apartments. Like, can we end our lease early?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. But COVID happened. So we were closed anyways, but we ended up moving during the pandemic to 16th South Prince Street. So we moved, like we had our theater.
Yeah.
Next to us was a bodega shop, and then there was a barber shop, and we moved into the barber shop. So, like, we just went from one side of the bodega to the other
side.
And so we've been there. We haven't had a live show in that theater yet, but
Okay.
Hopefully.
Have you been doing a lot of virtual things?
Yep. So we were dark for a little bit, and then we were like, we need to like get active again. So we would do Zoom improv and stream to Twitch.
Okay.
So we've been doing that for about a year now, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to still stream. That was the plan when we got the theater.
Yeah.
You know, things cost things, and
things cost things. Yes, they do.
Yep. Things cost money, I guess. Yeah, we don't trade anything but money, so I guess it doesn't cost things. And you know, like, it's just you never know what's gonna happen right now.
Yeah.
COVID's not over, so things could change.
Now, with why don't you tell people, like, just kind of explain what got you into improv? Like, what made you want to get into this, and kind of what improv like is? Because I think a lot of people, when they hear improv, they just think of like, whose line is it anyway, or just some street mimes or something like that.
So I was gonna say, if you don't know what improv is, think of whose line is it anyway, but I won't use that. So improv is just like all on the spot. Usually you get a suggestion from the audience. It's usually a word. We've done different things for ideation, which the word gives you ideas, and then you perform scenes, but it's all made up on the spot. There are a couple of, like, I'll call them guidelines to improv. I feel like they're rules, and, like, you have to play by the rules before you can break the rules. Like, you really need to learn them before you can break them. One of, like, the biggest things is yes and, so agreeing with your scene partner or partners, and adding to the scene. But I was in college, and it was during fall orientation, and they were showing all of, like, the groups and clubs that they had, and And there was this one group, Mad Cow Improv, that performed, and I was like, oh, that looks like fun. Like, I've never really done anything like this before. I auditioned, I got a call back, I did the call back, I got in. I don't really remember much of either because it's just not a memory that stayed in my brain. But I've been doing improv since then, so it's been like 7 years, which...
Dang.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that long.
I know. I didn't realize it was that long either until I was updating my bio for... I'm going to be teaching a class in August. So I was updating like my teacher bio.
Yeah.
And I was like, Shannon's been doing improv for 5 years. I was like, wow, I can't believe the last time I taught an in-person class was 2 years ago. Like 7 years now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I joined Lancaster Improv Players. I've been on the board since the theater has existed.
Yeah.
So 2 whole years. And
what was one of the favorite venues that you played at that hasn't been your theater yet? Because you guys didn't put on a live show in the theater, you said, right?
Not in our new theater.
So what's one of the best venues to stick out to you?
Can I say the old theater?
The old theater? No. No, you can't say the old theater.
Okay, this is a tough question. I probably Tellus. I feel like we always like packed out the speakeasy in Tellus.
I love that speakeasy.
Yeah, it's just like if anybody doesn't know what the speakeasy is, it's just like the basement of Tellus. It's like this tiny room and cash only.
All right, it's not like a dingy basement or anything. I mean, walking down into the basement is dingy, but I always thought it was so cool because kind of the story behind the speakeasy when it first ever opened was you had to go on Facebook and they had a secret code that you had to tell the person behind the door when you knocked on the door, and then they would let you in. If you didn't know the code, you couldn't go in. I mean, they would rent it out for like different parties and things like that. But I don't know why. I love that old time just bar feel.
And the games too, like they have like checkers and like Connect Four and things. So like there's like games you can play and they play like records. It's a cash only bar.
Yep. They only have like 4 beers on tap and different like a limited amount of liquors. It was just I don't know. It was just so homey. Like it just made that homey feel, which is why it was cool to see you guys perform there because it was like more personable.
Yeah. It was always a nice place. Just the speakeasy was nice. Like you know, if like you had a little too much to drink on the other floors, just to like go down there and like take a breather. Like you don't have like a floor vibrating from loud music and like you can relax. But the speakeasy was always nice. Like we packed it out. Like I feel like we always had like a good and fun audience. 551 was always great, but I just really like 551.
What was 551?
551 West on 551 West King Street.
Yeah. I never was there. I always passed it.
Yeah, I feel like we had a lot of shows there in 2018. We would be there like every 3rd Sunday or something.
Okay.
I don't know. It's been 3 years since we were there. Yeah, now we have a theater, so.
I gotta say, my favorite was probably the Vineyard, Hershey Vineyard. I don't know why. It was just I I never even knew that place existed until you invited me to the one show. But it was just so low key. The area like that you performed is anything. I mean, it wasn't anything special, but I thought that was pretty cool that you had a lot of people there that night too.
Yeah, that was I used to coach the team. It was lip service, and it was like our only short form team.
Yeah.
So short form improv is like a lot of like the gimmicky games, like a lot of what you would see on Whose Line Is It Anyway.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. I'm always biased to short form. That's what I started with.
Wait, so what's the difference between short form and long form?
So long form is just like scenes. So I'm pretty sure what you saw at Tellus was long form, where like you get a suggestion, like people will just like go out and do scenes, but like so like in improv to like not get too far in depth, like usually you find like a game of the scene. So it could be like I'm gonna just use a short form game because short form already gives you the game of the scene.
Okay.
So like we have a game called Blind Man's Bluff where you have 2 people doing a scene and the rest of the group sits on the floor at the front of the stage, and at any point somebody in the scene can put their hand on somebody's head and that person talks as if they were the person in the scene, and then they have to justify it. So like that's the game of the scene.
Gotcha.
So short form already gives you that game. I just think they're like always fun. They're always high energy. They tend to get the audience involved more than regular long form.
Yeah.
Long form I think is more of a challenge though, because you know you're really just starting with whatever your ideation was. So
yeah, The one that I also did when we were at the vineyard was the switch one where you had like I was there and then there's someone on the other side and the audience member would have to tell the people to switch out of the scene. And you guys were doing the one scene, I forget who it was, but it was this guy and he was getting ready to get a haircut and he had a full head of hair. And like whoever was playing the barber, like just put the scissors up, and I was like switch, and the person that switched out was a bald guy. And I just remember they switched, and he's just like ah. Oh, that
Oh
was
my
so funny and fun. What's your favorite game to play?
My favorite game? Man, that's a tough one. Um I'm gonna say two because we have like everybody games and then we have games that don't involve everybody.
Okay.
My favorite everybody game is Lounge Lizards.
Okay.
So you stand like in a row on the stage and like before the show you get like different words or like genres and the host will say like one of the words. So it could be like money.
Mm.
And so the first person has 5 seconds to think of a real song that has something to do with money and then they have to sing it for 7 seconds. And then the next person, like everybody else has 3 seconds after that. And they have to think of a different real song that has something to do with money and sing it for 7 seconds. If you repeat a song, if you sing a song that isn't real or you don't think of a song within those 3 seconds, you're like out and then you get a new category from the host and you start all over again. So it's a lot of fun. I think it's high energy. The audience tends to sing along. It's something that's really fun. And I'm just competitive. My favorite game that isn't an everybody game. This is still hard. Maybe Genie. I like the audience involvement with that.
With Genie with all the questions.
Yeah, the questions. I like all the parts of that. We also have a game called Bodies, which I haven't done with Lancaster Improv Players yet.
Okay.
But you have one person that's like a puppeteer, and then you have 3 other members, and they're all like dead bodies, and it's pretty much like the puppeteer is playing dolls with the dead bodies.
So you have to move them around. I bet that gets interesting.
Yeah. Especially when like the puppeteer just starts like dropping them, like when they're standing, like you have to pretend you're dead. So it's like, now I'm gonna slam down on the ground.
Oh my gosh! So you not only are involved in the improv players, but you're for people that want to get involved. You're coaching and doing classes and everything.
Yes. So I did coach lip service, and then I passed that to somebody else because I had started another team called IRS Improv Rebound Society, and we do long form based on a short form game I like.
Okay.
So I coach that. I've taught a class. I have a 101 class coming up starting August 10th. I guess like free promotion. I don't know.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Come right away. That's what this is here for.
Yeah, August 10th. So it's just learning the foundations of improv. We're really working on like updating the curriculum and making sure like we have like set objectives.
How hard is it to write an improv curriculum?
I mean, it's not something you do by yourself. Like I definitely think it's important to like get together with people. So just finding time to like get together with other people.
Yeah.
And just making sure like you have like those clear objectives. I know we spent a few hours talking about like what we want people to get out of Improv 101.
Okay.
And then we started going class by class. Like we worked from like bigger picture and down to like individual classes. So we're working on doing that just to make sure like what we're offering.
Yeah.
It can be consistent no matter who's teaching.
Yeah.
Even if they do different exercises, you're getting the same skills out of it. And we have a way to like evaluate students.
Okay.
Because like before it was like,
wait, there's grades?
No, there's no grades. But before it was like, oh,
Is
you
there
showed.
test? you gotta drop this dead body right, or you're gonna fail.
The test is the class show at the end.
Okay.
Not really. It's not really a test, but before it was like, oh, you showed up to 6 classes, like, congrats, you did it. And now like we have more. I mean, it wasn't just like that. Like I think we offered really good classes. A lot of our members took the classes.
Yeah.
And they're good improvisers.
Yeah.
But just reviving everything and redoing it, making it solid coming out of the pandemic, I think is really important.
The one thing that you guys always, well, at least that I noticed when I saw you guys perform, was going back to the whole community thing. Like you guys flow off of each other, like you really click. Is that like, was that natural for you? Did you guys know each other before you started this or joined, or?
I knew a few people before I joined because Lip was really good about reaching out to like colleges
Mm.
and doing things with colleges and like building those relationships. So I knew some of the members of Lip
Yeah.
before I graduated college. So I knew them when I auditioned and stuff. Um but yeah, like one of like the things like I really focus on is the community and like becoming friends with each other, hanging out, because the more comfortable you are with each other, the more you just automatically know the
Yeah.
boundaries of your scene partner,
Yeah.
what they're thinking, where they want the scene to go,
Yeah.
and you can have a better scene that flows
Yeah.
and, just knowing where it's going to go, set it up for good jokes.
Is it you and I always thought you and what was her name?
Sammy?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
always thought you and Sammy had a good
Yeah.
had a really good chemistry
Sammy
together.
and I were like the only girls for a while, so
Yeah.
her and I love Sammy. She's a good one.
Is she still in?
Yeah,
in with
she coaches a team. She has also taught Improv 101 before, and her and I are on a team together. So we did a duo show one time. The two of us, we did short form games as a duo.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun.
Where was that at?
We did it at Lancaster Improv Players Theater.
Oh, at the old theater.
Yeah, I think we had a fifth Saturday where we didn't have anything planned because, we're not going to tell a team like, hey, your time slot is fifth Saturday. You get 3 shows a year.
Yeah.
So we would usually do something fun. We did a duo show where like each duo had like 15 to 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Because we had never really done duos before, and like we were responsible for like practicing on our own and stuff, and like we could have like somebody like be with us to give us feedback, but like it's not like we had a specific coach. But Sammy and I decided to do like 3 short form games.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of fun.
See, then but that's what I'm trying to paint the picture here of, like, how hard is that though? Because you don't know what the audience is going to say. Like, you know the game and you know the way that the game should go, but like to come up with that off your head, I mean, like, what are you thinking in that moment? Because you guys and a lot of improv that I've seen, I mean, it just flows, like, and especially like if I watch Whose Lines It Anyway, like Ryan and Colin are probably my favorite too on that entire show. I mean, they've known each other for so long, so it's like, okay, they can go through and like they can go through and kind of know what each other's thinking. Like how do you do that? Is it just come naturally, or you learn it over time? Like,
it takes time.
Yeah.
Like the closer you get with people and the more you work with people, the more you learn about them, and the more you do improv with them, the easier it gets. The thinking on the top of your head. I mean, there are times I've walked out on stage with absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And I just start doing an action.
Yeah.
And, I feel like there's, like, a fair amount of improv scenes I've watched where, it's just, like, people, like, washing dishes. And it's pretty quiet until somebody says something.
Yeah.
Because it gives you time to, like, really, like, set a scene and,
Yeah.
like, ground yourself.
Hmm.
And, like, think of, like, where you want it to go before you even say anything.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things, like, that people struggle with when they first start. Like, they think every second needs to be filled with words.
Okay.
And I'm like, no. Like, you can take a moment. Like, it feels longer than it actually is.
Yeah.
Like, we do different exercises with, like, physicality and stuff. And one of my favorite exercises to do with people new in improv is to make them do an action, like gardening or washing dishes or doing laundry. And, like, just do a 2-person scene where you're doing that action, but not once do you mention what you're doing. Like, you have a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
Because it really helps with, like, grounding. Like, if you don't know what to say, like, you can just take a moment and be like, I'm folding a shirt now. Like, make it nice. And
Yeah.
I don't think people are comfortable with that dead air.
Did you ever have a time where you panicked?
I'm sure I have.
Yeah. Just can't remember it.
Yeah.
Suppressed it.
Every single time I've auditioned for a group.
crap. What do I say? I couldn't do it. I respect you guys so much, because as much as people just think it's just going up there and doing something, I mean, it's a form of acting. It takes a form of acting. So what are you teaching these new students coming in? I don't want to say these younger students, because you have all types of ages joining it so many times. There was the one older gentleman that you had at Tellus, the one that I saw, I thought he was absolutely hilarious. And you're like, oh yeah, he just started like 2 weeks ago. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, so with Improv 101, it's all about like teaching the foundations of improv.
Mm.
So like I said, like there's like guidelines and rules. So like yes and is a big one. I like to like just go over yes and a little bit more in depth. I like to say agree and add because it gives like a layer of consent.
Yeah.
And I talk about like yes and how like that even relates in like offices and work and stuff, and like how you can use that in meetings when like you're working on projects and stuff. I don't think people realize like how much you can apply improv
Yeah.
to things you do
In your daily life.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so every week I send out like an email, so I try to find like an article or something that talks about like what we just learned and like, how to apply it to real life.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like that's something that's so useful and like you don't think of, and you know, I hope it gives something.
I'm just gonna start improv in everything I do now.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go to the dollar store after this and just, I don't know, scream.
That is improv. You know, like things like working at the top of your intelligence. So like if you're a doctor,
Yeah.
like no doctor is going to be like stupid.
Yeah.
So you might not know everything about being a doctor, but
You
like
haven't met some of my doctors. No.
yeah, go back to our previous conversation. But like, you know, like they're gonna like be careful when they're stitching somebody back up. So like you're not gonna just like be silly about it and like purposely do it bad.
Yeah.
Like working at the top of your intelligence and doing the best you can with what you know. Avoiding questions. You know, like you watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, and like Colin and Ryan ask each other questions, but that goes back to like learn the rules before you can break the rules. Like you really have to get comfortable with people before you start asking questions, because questions can just hold back a scene. You know, I always tell people like instead of asking a question, make the decision in your head and say that decision.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna drive the scene that much further, that much faster, and now you're in control of where it's going.
Was there ever a time that stuck out to you where the audience made the show better than you expected? Like either with involvement or just a certain thing that they, you know, an idea they gave you.
I can't think of like a specific like idea or anything, but usually just like the bigger audiences with the energy. Like I feel like the hardest thing with Zoom improv is the fact that like I'm in my room by myself and like I don't know what's going on. Like, are people laughing? Are people enjoying this? So like just having an audience that's involved and feeling it, like those shows like at the Hershey Vineyard, it's always a risk because the audience could just like absolutely not be like into it.
Yeah.
Like you know, at a vineyard, I don't think many people are like, oh yeah, I know what improv is and I'm ready for this show. Like I think sometimes people don't like improv because they expect funny. But you need to take time to like set up scenes in the story and like what you're doing. So it's not gonna be joke like a stand-up show.
Yeah.
So like the audiences that are just like really into it and having a good time. And it makes it easier to like want to call back like things that happened previously in the show, because it's like, oh, the audience like was really into this. We're gonna bring this back. We're gonna make it another joke. Because, you know, when you do that, like, the second time you bring up a previous idea, the audience is like, oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was funny. And the third time you do it, they're like, I'm in on an inside joke with, like, these improvisers, you know, and it really makes the audience a part of it.
Yeah. I remember the one time on Whose Line, just to bring up, like, the inside joke thing, Colin did something with, like, a meow thing, and it carried all the way into, like, every other scene. And I'm continuously laughing, and even though the person's doing it over and over again, it's just funny because you know it's like an inside joke between them, and everyone loves an inside joke between friends. So like when you get in on that, I think it makes you feel like you're a part of like the show or being a part of it and everything.
You were there at the start of that joke. Like,
yeah.
You know why that's funny.
So when you so you're planning these classes now. So Improv 101. And there's another one you said.
We currently have a freestyle class running right now.
Okay.
So one of our members, Tony, he actually like took classes at Freestyle Love Supreme in New York, like the thing.
Oh, really?
The Lin-Manuel Miranda thing.
Yeah.
So like he's like learned things, and so he's like teaching a freestyle class, which I did not take because I do not. That like I'm. You know, you're like, oh, I don't know how I could get on stage and do improv. That's how I feel about the freestyle stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
It's like the 8 Mile of improv. You're just over there.
We have a game called 8 Mile, and sometimes I was like just really bad at it.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a hit or a miss. But just like expanding what we're offering too, like things like that. We offered some stand-up classes during the pandemic. We offered some sketch classes during the pandemic.
Okay.
So I think right now it's just like a matter of like slowly getting back into it. We're offering workshops with like different like outside teachers.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where we'll grow. I don't know.
So you're doing, you have August 10th is the 101.
Mm-hmm.
What are the other dates coming up for these things?
We have a grand opening. Like us on Facebook for more updates on that.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose that yet. I did message the board like, hey guys, I'm going on a podcast. Anything you don't want me to say? And they were all like, we trust your judgment. And I was like, cool, I don't.
I don't. That's a horrible idea. I'm so sorry I did this to you guys.
Trust me, Mike knows me, and he knows that's a bad idea.
Gosh. It was like a year and a half of just, shit.
Do you remember the time I went to your office and I was like, Mike, I just drove the truck into the garage. Like, my customer's, like, signing the paperwork to, like, buy the vehicle.
Oh, my gosh.
And you were like, you're just joking. I was like, no, I'm not.
No.
Like, I hit the truck in the garage.
In the garage. Yes. Oh, my. So, lip guys, you know this. So, this is why we say this because... All right, so Shannon and I always had this this joking relationship all the time, and there would be times where we would really get each other when we thought that like something was serious, and it'd be like, F you, and literally her customers inside signing the paperwork to she used to be one of my sales representatives, by the way, when I worked at the dealership. The last episode I actually had Jeff from Jones on, and McDowell actually just called me up today, and he said, you're dead to me, and I'm like, why? And he's like, you put their fucking website on the description. I'm like, he asked me to. Like, come on the show and I'll do yours. Anyway, long story short. So, literally, like, she came up, and I don't know if you were just, like in shock, and she was laughing. And, like, not laughing, but she's like, Mike, like, I just rammed this truck into the side of the garage. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, the truck that my people are signing for.
Wait, can I just, like, say that it was raining and, like, this guy, like,
yes.
did not, like,
yes.
walk the greatest. So, like, I'm just trying to do a good thing by pulling this, like, brand new 2020 GMC 1500, like, one of the first ones we have on the lot, into the garage.
Yep.
And I'm, like, when I'm pulling it in, I'm, like, looking at, like, the driver's side bumper, like, thinking I'm going to hit, like, the front of the truck on the garage because, like, for people who don't know, I'm 4'11", so I'm having a hard time seeing.
You couldn't see.
Yeah. And it wasn't a Denali, so the running boards didn't go back up, and I hit the running board, probably the best thing I could have hit on the vehicle, into the side of the garage, and I get out, and, like, all the techs, like, pop their heads out, and I'm like, I don't see anything, like, I don't think I did any damage, and they're like, no, you did. I was like, no, I think it's fine, I don't see anything. And then I think it was Adam who, like, pointed at the running board, and I was like, oh, man, I need to go tell Mike.
Did you notice the giant dent in the side of the running board is on there? So she comes in the office, and then I'm like, okay, whatever. And then she's like, no, like, I'm dead serious. You need to go look at this. So I go out to the garage thinking, like, she's going to pull my leg or something.
Yeah, and you're like, I swear to God, if I go down here and you did, I'm going to be so mad. I'm like, Mike, I actually hit the truck.
And I looked, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Oh, man. We had some good times.
Now, I tell people I have, like, a 98%, like, driving record when it comes to trucks. Like, I only crash one out of every 50.
The thing was, like she said, she's 4'11", and I remember the one time you had to show that Denali diesel that lifted 2500. Do you remember that?
Wasn't that, like, one of the first vehicles I sold?
One of the first ones you sold,
I think it was a 3500. Like, it was a massive...
Oh, that's right, it was.
And it was snowing.
Yep. And you were like, I'm not driving this thing. I'm not pulling this thing out. And I'm like, you'll be fine. And then not even, what was it, like maybe like a couple hours later, I think of like a bunch of, like, we were like, yeah, nobody drive cars anymore because it's like icy as shit out there.
Yeah.
And you're just like, hello, I just drove this giant truck on my first day.
Oh my God. I remember there was one time I was trying to park a brand new truck, and I was so nervous because, again, I'm 4'11", like I can't see where I'm driving, and like it's a tight spot in between these two other trucks, and we have a row of cars behind it, and I'm so nervous. I went in and asked for help, and like somebody was like, "Oh, I can't help you," and I was like, "Okay, well, like I'm trying not to crash this $60,000 truck into these other two $60,000 trucks."
Oh my gosh.
Like, if you don't want to help me, that's fine.
Man.
We just might be out $180,000.
It's fine. We'll replace it. It's the owner's money. We'll be fine. Listen his name. I'm not gonna do that anyway. Good times. Anyway, guys. So, if you would like to learn improv or any type of, are you still doing the stand-up stuff or just the improv right now?
I don't think there's been talks about stand-up, but I hope we bring it back.
Okay. Well, if you want to just learn the basics of improv, I can be a testament to this. Lancaster County Improv Players, they are a great bunch of people to learn from. They are just absolutely hilarious. It's something fun to get into, even if you don't want to do it for like long term. Like, try it out once. I mean, it's a good time. And Shannon is a great teacher. I can say that. You'll learn a lot from her. So the August 10th show is coming up. You're going to have a bunch of other classes coming up. I'll have links in the description down below of where you can chat more. Do you guys have like an official website or something?
If you find us on, we do
Really
have
quick,
a website.
is your cell phone, I know we're almost done. Is your cell phone near? Like, is it in your purse? Move it over to the side for me there. I think that's what that buzzing noise is.
Which side? This side?
Yeah, over there. Yep, that was it. All right. Sorry, everyone that was listening and had to hear that buzz. I just noticed it because it was like faint in my ear. Anyway, I'll have the links in the description down below. Website?
Yes, we do have a website. We're also on Facebook. So if you find us on Facebook, if you shoot us a message on Messenger, I don't know, I think we respond quickly. It probably says like response within 2 hours or whatever. Because a bunch of us have access to it.
Okay.
So, pops up on our phones and it's like, oh, somebody messaged us. And, we tend to get back really quickly.
Okay. How quickly?
I can pull it. Do you want me to bring my phone back over
here? No, don't do that. So they can. So the improv class, 101 class, August 10th. Is it going to be in person?
It will be in person.
Okay.
It's going to be our first improv. Well, I guess the freestyle class is the first improv class we're offering in person again, but it'll be our first 101 class we're offering in person again.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have that.
When are you opening the new venue?
Our grand opening weekend will be in September.
Wait, hold on. Are you allowed to say it?
I don't know, so I'm going to say it'll be in September.
It'll be in September. I tried to stop her, and I shouldn't have asked that question.
Like us on Facebook for more. We've started in-person practices.
Okay.
In
practice is practical.
In practice is persons. We've started in-person practices, to get back in the swing of things and, learn how to be on a stage again, which didn't think would be as stressful as it is, but
it's pretty stressful.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, wow, I haven't been on this in a year and a half.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm glad that we are getting back to some set of normalcy here, and you guys are able to do that because I think a lot of people need it. It's been crazy out there. There are things going on. I think people just need to laugh and go see some shows.
That's why
see some cool stuff.
We started doing the Zoom stuff because it's like, people just need a laugh right now. And they need a break. And,
yeah.
I'm glad we continued doing that because I think it really helped us come out of this with a community still.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be back in person. I don't know why I haven't brought this up yet, but we have a share a laugh, share a meal initiative. So every ticket sold, we donate. I think we switched to the PA food bank. I think it's 10 meals or something to the PA food bank.
Oh, that's awesome.
With the stipulation that it goes to children in Lancaster City. Because so many kids in Lancaster City are on free and reduced meals. So, when they're not in school, during the summer, even weekends and stuff, their families don't have the resources. So we try to give back to the community.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciate, and keep your eyes open because I really don't have a lot of details on this, but we're going to do a back to school supply drive.
Oh, awesome.
So we'll have details of that on social media eventually.
And that's all through ticket buying and supporting the show and things.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. We still need to work out the details of it, but we're going to do school supply drive because kids are going to be back in school.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. When did you guys decide to do that?
We've always done it.
Okay.
When we were discussing opening the theater, we knew we wanted to get back to the community, and make a difference because if people are coming out to support us, we want to
Yeah.
give back.
Give back to everyone. Yeah.
It makes sense. You know, we're right in Lancaster City.
Yeah.
You know, feeding hungry kids is pretty
Pretty high up on the priority
Yeah.
list, I would say so.
not controversial either. Like, nobody can just show up and be like, I can't believe you're feeding hungry
Why
kids.
are you feeding these kids?
You monster. Like, nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be like, oh, wow, like, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, we had other ideas.
Yeah.
I think one of them was, like, Narcan and stuff, but, you know, like, somebody could be like,
Yeah.
oh, like, you're just supporting addicts or something. And, you know,
Mhm.
it's just one of those things
Yeah.
where it's harder and, you know, kids don't ask to, or, you know, kids don't put themselves in these positions,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's just something we can do. So we switched to the PA food bank during the pandemic.
Okay.
And we discussed how we could still work on our share, laugh, share meal thing, even though we didn't have ticket sales, because all of our stream shows are free.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to make people pay for improv during a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll be doing that again. I'm really excited to get back into ticket sales and
Yeah.
supporting the community more.
That's so awesome. Well, I will be at the first show in September to support you guys. That's so cool. I hope that everyone out there listening can come and join too as well once we get more details on it. But the first show back will be in September. That is Lancaster Improv Players. I'll have the link to their website and the Facebook down below. If you have any questions for the whole group, they can just message the Facebook page and they will respond at some point in time.
Yeah.
And make sure you sign up for her classes, guys. Seriously, she's a great improv performer. She has nearly perfected her profession in these 7 years.
I disagree so hard.
That's okay. I'm not gonna disagree with myself. I agree with myself.
I'm sorry. I should have said yes and.
Yes and. My friend, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. I know that we had some little holdups with some things getting together, but it was good to see you again. It was good to catch up with you. And
Agreed. Better than driving past you in the city 3 days ago.
we were working everything out over the past week of when to meet up, and I as you guys know, I go out to the city on Sundays, and I saw this blue car, and I was like, every time I see this particular blue car, I know that Shannon has it, and I always just look to maybe see if it's her, and I saw the place where we used to work at, their sticker on the front, and I was like, Shannon? And like, she looked at the same time, she's like, Mike?
Yeah, I'm like, that's a skinny man with a lot of hair. Is that Michael?
And it was me. I appeared like a genie. But no, in all seriousness, I've always appreciated you. You were always even from the first time that I interviewed you, I knew you were going to be somebody special and do some crazy, awesome things in your life, and that has just fulfilled itself out. So keep doing what you're doing. It's been great to get to know you over these past 2 years, and with everything that you guys have been done, even through the improv player things. I just see how you all collectively as a group like just care for people, and it's so cool to see you guys get back.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Mikey.
Nope, not anymore. Now I hate you. Do you have anything else to say?
No. I've missed working with you, Mike.
Same.
Let's work together.
No, let's not. God, I can't go through that
I
again.
can just go into your office. Hi, Mikey. Good morning, Mikey.
Oh, no.
The click-clack of the heels.
Oh, my gosh, that was so bad. That was so bad, especially on that floor. And it's early in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. I just hear this. Just make it stop. Oh, all right, my friend. It was good to see you. As always, guys, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube at Wallace Production, WALLESS Production. And make sure to check out the new channel, Talk to Me Clips, T, the number 2, M, and then Clips. And you can see all the clips if you don't feel like watching hour-long podcasts, because sometimes I know I don't like to do that, but if you get a chance, check that out. It would mean everything if you could like, share, and subscribe to that. Miss Shannon Maguire, everyone.